In basic terms, consensus means, let's say there is a group of people, right? And we want to come to a single point of conclusion, right? So that is consensus. A group of people, a group of deciding factors, which are going to come to a single conclusion for the whole system or for the whole network, is defined by the consensus. Right? But why do we even require the consensus, right? So for that reason, why do we require consensus is because as we see that the network is decentralized, right? There are a different number of nodes, different kind of people who are hosting their own nodes, right? So if a block is generated, right, it is propagated to each and every node in the system, and to maintain the integrity and maintain the integrity, and for the blockchain to act as a single system, which is even if it's a distributed ledger and it's a distributed system in itself, right? We want that the whole system still works as an integrated place, so that you get the same information from all kind of nodes, right? So even if I host a RPC node, if I'm a validator or anyone, if we get the data from any one of these nodes, it should be the same. A single block number should return the same exact amount of transactions that it contains, and in the same order. Otherwise, the system is going to fail, right? If everyone is keeping their own set of data, then there is, if you are going to use some other node, you are going to get a different kind of a data from your node. So that is why we require consensus in a distributed peer-to-peer system. So yeah, as we have talked about, what are the limitations? These are the limitations and why we need a consensus in a decentralized system, right? So first point is, let's assume that every node is going to be honest. Then different nodes might receive different information, as I said, and they can even store it. Even if they receive the same information, they can store different informations based on how they're running their own node, right? And since this is distributed, this can be all over the world. These nodes can all over the world. It can take some seconds to transfer from one end of the globe to the other end. It can take some minutes. It can take some seconds, right? So the time of propagation of these blocks over the network is going to be different, right? And there can be a situation in which, if let's say different nodes are creating blocks on their own without any consensus, then they are creating blocks and are propagating them to the network, and therefore all the nodes are going to receive these blocks, but even the sequence of these receiving of these blocks is going to be different, right? So if I have in India, if there is another node in India, it is going to receive the block faster than the other node which is in USA, right? And vice versa. If someone in USA creates a block, the USA nodes will receive it faster than the ones in India, right? And each node is going to have its own timestamp. This is a bit technical, right? It's okay. And yeah, in case if the nodes are malicious, then there is no restriction of holding of them to execute the incorrect transactions or to disrupt the system. So that is why we require a consensus. And now we will talk about what kind of a consensus are. Okay, before talking about those consensus, let's see a brief description of how consensus work in blockchain. So this is a very basic explanation of how this consensus work. This is not related to any particular type of consensus, but a very basic flow of what happens in every consensus mechanism. So a user is going to request a transaction, then the node receives a request and verifies the transaction, right? If verification of the transaction is done, then the transaction is collected in a block, and a block can obviously contain a multiple number of transactions. After it has collected all those transactions based on the timestamp or based on some other factors, it will decide that, okay, now the block is completed, now I have to publish it, right? So at the time of publish, a new block is created. Now that block is created, it is broadcasted into the network, and then when it is broadcasted into the network, the other nodes that are receiving that block is going to validate those that block, and if it is validated, they are going to add it to their own state, right? State of their node, and they are now adding those blocks in their state, and right after that the reward is generated, and it is distributed. Either it is directly provided to the validator or the miner that has generated the block, or it is transferred into the pool, after which it is, after a certain amount of time, it can be distributed among all the validators that are working in the system. So that's a very basic flow of a consent of a process of consensus. Now, so if we move in, if we talk more about consensus, then in the blockchain, consensus mechanism is a system that validates a transaction marks that's authentic. This mechanism lists all valid transactions of a coin in the blockchain to build trust in the coin among traders. Several currencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. use this system for security purposes. So basically, consensus is required to is required to have a authenticated system, and where all the transactions are validated, right? And that is going to create a trust among all the users that are using that blockchain. So it achieves the agreement of most of the users on a single network. The consensus mechanism maintains the security of the blockchain by keeping a record of all the legitimate transactions. Since crypto trading is a decentralized process, this becomes important to stop sellers from deliberately cheating a buyer. Right. And to build trust for a blockchain, the consensus mechanism ensures that a transaction is reflected in the blockchain as soon as it gets validated. There are a variety of methodologies that are essential to ensure security and trust and achieve agreement across a blockchain network. Consensus mechanism also ensure that all the transactions for a coin are rightly listed in the blockchain. Right. So if you have any questions around consensus, if you still do not understand what it fully is, or if you have any particular question regarding the part of it, you can post it in the chat.